This is Trisha Messentine with the Lawrence Times, and I'm here today with Kayla Deere, who has graciously agreed to talk with us about her abortion experience. So, Kayla, first I want to ask you a question about the upcoming election. How are you voting on August 2nd? And based on your experience, how would you encourage people to vote?
So I'm going to vote no on August 2nd. I hope that everyone votes no because I definitely think that women have the right and should always have the right to choose what is best for their bodies and their lives and their families. Um, just like everyone, I think everyone should have that right. And I think that, it's very important, even if you feel like this wouldn't affect you, it will at some point, somehow. Even if you're a man, it's going to affect you. And even if you're older and or you don't want kids, this will affect you somehow, just because of your loved ones or friends. It's just so important that we vote no because body autonomy is, I mean, if we don't have control over that, then what what do you have, like what's next, really? That's what I think.
Thank
I think that I obviously have my own story as to um, why I'm talking to you today. But even before this happened, um, I always had the same thoughts that women should have the right to choose what they should be able to do with their bodies.
Sure. Would you like to share your story with us? I know that 5 years ago, at about 22 weeks of your pregnancy, you found out that you had a son with an incompatible with life diagnosis.
Yes,
And I'm so sorry that you experienced that.
thank you. Yeah, so 5 years ago, I went in for my 20-week sonogram, and they saw some things that they said were a little concerning. And so they did a blood test. And uh, I just, went home and went about my day. And about 5 days later, they called me and gave me the news that our son, Jack, who that's what we named him, had an incompatible with life diagnosis. They found on this blood test that he tested positive for trisomy 18. And what that is a extra 18th chromosome. And they call it incompatible with life because almost all of the babies in utero that test positive for this um, don't usually make it past um, birth. They usually don't make it to birth. If they do make it to birth, then they probably won't make it through birth because it's very traumatic. And then the genetic um, counselor told us that if he did happen to make it through that, then he would, um, just there wasn't anything they could do for him. He would suffer probably seconds, maybe hours a day, you know, some anything like that. Like it's usually because of um, their heart and kidneys are the main thing, but that's usually what's the most affected. Not to mention, everything else because that kind of regulates everything. So when I went back in and they told me that with my husband, they said that they needed to do an amnio. And so we said, okay. And they did the amnio, and it takes usually about a week or so to get the amnio back. Usually it can take up to 2. And so we didn't really know what to expect because it was just this one blood test that the amnio actually shows more of the severity of, what it is, and verifies for sure that's what it is. So we did that. And then they called us and said that he in fact had a full 18th chromosome. Um, and so we were counseled with them at the specialist, and they said, if you choose, I had 2 options. One would be to continue my pregnancy, um, and see what would happen. The other would be to have to interrupt my pregnancy and have an abortion. And so, just being a mom already, I had at the time my stepdaughter was 8 and my son was 6, and so being a mom already, my main goal as a mom is to protect my children from anything I can and give them the best life that I can. And so when I heard that, he, what his life would be if he even made it, I just knew that my only, the only thing I could do to protect him was to terminate my pregnancy and save him from suffering. Um, and so, because the Kansas abortion laws are so regulated already, I was already, so you have to, in Kansas, be counseled 24 hours before you can receive an abortion. And then you have to be able to complete the abortion and all of that before 22 weeks. So you have 21 weeks and 6 days.
Okay.
And I was already past that. So at the time, there were 5 places that we could go and in the country to terminate my pregnancy. And the one that was closest was in Colorado. So my the place I was going, they sent all of my tests and everything about my pregnancy to the place, and they then called me because they don't just do late term abortions anywhere in this country unless it's medically necessary. That's false. So all of that stuff that you hear, it's just not happening. These doctors dedicate their lives to helping families in my situation, and so that our children won't suffer, and that we can do it in the safest way possible. So we had to, well, first pay for it, which at this time, in that, when you're as far along as I was, I gave birth. So it's expensive, and you have to be there for a full week. That's how long the process takes. And so, being not that we didn't, we don't live in Colorado, so we had to book last minute flights, rent a car, um, stay in a hotel, and also not work. My kids had to stay with my parents, and also the actual abortion costs a lot of money. So they gave me the number to Kansas Abortion Fund, and they were amazing. I was hysterical, and she talked me through it, and she just said, this is what we will take care of this. And so they sent the check to the clinic that we were going to pay for it, which helped a lot. And so, anyway, so we had to then fly to Denver and get a car and all of that. On the day that I went in, we they did, tests and everything, and then that actual day they put a shot through my stomach, watching the sonogram machine, and into Jack's heart to stop it. Um, and so then they have to start dilating my cervix so that I can have him safely. So they did that, and it's pretty painful. Um, and then we went home, and then every day after that, I had to go back in and get um, more of the dilators put in. Um, this whole time, I'm carrying my dead baby in my belly. So I don't think I probably spoke 2 sentences to my husband the entire time we were there. I just was in the darkest place I think I've ever been in my life. I just, I was just numb to everything, and I was really alone because I was scared that something could happen to me and that I wouldn't see my kids that I have again. Um, and I had my child that I very much wanted, um, who was not alive in my stomach anymore. And so on the final day when we went in, we they gave me pitocin like they do when you have kids, and to start my contractions. And so I had to labor all day, and then at the very end of the day, I had to go back by myself because we're not in a hospital, we're in a clinic. So um, Blake, my husband, couldn't go with me. So it was me and the doctor and his nurse and a woman that would be like a doula. She just held my hand and talked me through it. Um, and before, during this process, when we got there, they asked us if we wanted to have him cremated, and we did. So we picked out his urn, and then they also ask if you want to be able to hold them and see them, and we did. So because they can, they have, it's their discretion to see if he looked good enough for us to see, and because my body held on to him longer, he didn't look good enough, they said. So we didn't get to see him or hold him. So they gave me, they did footprints and handprints. So we got that. Um, and then we left the next day and came home and had to tell our kids that, Jack was sick and that he had died and all of that. So they were really upset. And then I don't know that anyone knows this because I really didn't, but my milk came in um, because my body knew I had a baby. So I just didn't have one to feed. So that was pretty traumatic. And like I said, well, I have a son. I had one before Jack, and then I have a daughter that I had after Jack. And I have given birth to my kids with no drugs, and it's really, really painful. But there's nothing more painful than going through that process and not having a baby to show for it. And so, um, I just tried to have a brave face for my kids and my husband and my family and everyone, but you just can't, it's just not something that you get over. And so I just, would try to be strong and then go to the bathroom and cry or wake up at night and cry by myself. And so, anyway, I think that the only thing worse than what I had to go through would have been like if he would have like made it past like birth and then just like watching him suffer. I I can't imagine like the only little like time he would have had would have been like just pain. So like I feel comfort in that like I know I made the right choice for him. Um, and I just know that I'm so lucky that I had the choice to make. Um, and I don't think that my personal abortion story is any more valid than anyone else's. Everyone has their own story and their own reasons behind it. And until you are in those shoes, um, until you're in that person's place, like you can't ever imagine like what it is like to go through. And I think that that is why so many people don't understand or think that it's just, because you're just doing it, and it's not that. There's so many different reasons and every single one of them is valid and important, and it's the woman going through it. And yes, she might have a support system. Yes, there might be a husband. Yes, there might be a million things, but no one is in that position. No one misses or loves or values Jack more than I do. Um, and I just think that every single experience for all of the women in the world that have to do this is traumatic in some way, shape, or form, and that there's no way anyone can ever even begin to fathom like what it means to have to make that choice. And choice is a really not, it's a really just not a term that I think it even makes sense for something like this. And so I just think that if more people understood um, what it's like and what your emotions are and how, for me personally, I will have this with me my entire life. So I will miss him. I will um, think about him and all of that every day of my life. So, the people that value them both signs are ridiculous, I personally think, because, you know, first of all, you're not valuing the woman at all. And I'm the one that was valuing my son, um, and could be the one to make the choice that I had to protect him. So I just think that it's more than, there's just so much gray area in all of it. And um, that's why I think everyone has to vote no, because unless you've been through, if you've been through something like this, then you're already going to be voting no. I mean, there's no way you're not. If you haven't, then you're so lucky. And I hope that you never have to. But I do hope that you can empathize and expand your mind to what actually what it means and what we go through as women, as pregnant women, as mothers, as any of that, to just try to empathize and understand that it is not just this really easy, quick decision. It's so much. Your body goes through so much, your mind goes through so much, your emotions go through so much. Um, and it can't be anyone other than the person going through it and their body to make that choice. So I just think that I hope that you know, we can do the right thing in Kansas, especially. I'm I would be really scared to get pregnant right now, and I am terrified for my daughters and for my son. I mean, just for anyone, my friends, everyone. Like, it's just there's so much more that this can affect, and I just think that it's so wrong to think that anyone other than the person going through it and living it can make any sort of decision on it, especially a judge or politician or anything like that. Like, that's insane. None of them even know that, what I went through. None of them miss my Miss Jack. None of them shed a tear. None of them wrote me a letter or asked me how I was. That was the people at the clinic I went to. They did. They checked up on me. They write me letters. They're very kind. Um, and so I just think that, you know, if you're on the other side of it, you just haven't ever been through it. So
Sure. Thank you so much, Kayla, for telling us your story and sharing with us. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. So
thank you.
thank you for helping us tell your story.
I hope that it does help some people kind of look at what they're talking about, look at what they believe in, because it's this is so much more than just putting a sign in your yard and you know going and or posting on Facebook like mean stuff about what it means, like that we're murdering our babies and stuff like that. Like, that's just so hateful, and it's just not what it is. And no one ever that's in this position, my position, or any early on, whatever they're doing, the choice they're making is not that easy, and it's it's theirs to make, you know. So
Thank you, Kayla.
thank you.